everybody. Thank you for coming. And we know it's a very busy time of year. I've got hay down right now as well. Lovely time. Anyway, I'm just going to hand the reins right over to Alex. She's our new equine nutrition consultant that has joined Sharpe Farm Supplies. And she's going to talk about the equine digestive system. Take it over, Alex.
Okay, so everybody can hear me? This is how this works?
Yes.
So I just speak and we're good to go?
You just speak and we're good to go. But now look, see how the lights show up?
Yeah.
That means that's how my voice is being sounded. So you might have to stand on this side. That's all. But you're not going to be viewed on...
Or just talk really loudly?
Or just talk.
Does that work?
That's coming up 3 bars.
Okay.
2 bars.
Let's see how this works. Okay. Okay, so the theme for tonight is the guts of it all. So I'm going to kick off the evening by taking us through a brief overview of the equine digestive system, otherwise known as the gastrointestinal tract. And I'm probably going to get lazy and shorten it down to the GIT on you. So just so we all follow along. So first and foremost, this slide takes us or gives us a brief overview. Oh, why does that show up like that? How do you switch that?
So go to slideshow
Yeah.
and from current slide.
Okay. I'm used to my fancy little
Mac.
Yep. Okay, so this slide gives you the overview of the digestive system. As you can see, they've sort of broken it into 2 halves. You've got your foregut and your hindgut. Foregut's the stomach and small intestine. Your hindgut, that would be your cecum, large colon, and small colon. Foregut's a acidic environment. Your hindgut, that's a basic environment. So horses are known as a hindgut fermenter, which basically means they're a monogastric herbivore with a single chambered stomach, unlike their counterpart, say a cow or a ruminant, which would have a 4-chambered stomach. So plant material is digested through bacterial fermentation in the cecum and colon. The enteric nervous system is what monitors and controls all aspects of your GIT. It receives regulatory inputs from your central nervous system to basically tell the body what to do and how to interpret things. Where's the arrows? So this next slide is just a closer up picture for you to show you the breakdown. That looks really funny on there. To show you the breakdown of the intestinal tract, breaks it down into percentages. So as you can see, the hindgut, that makes up the largest portion, about 60%. This next slide, more realistic picture for you. Basically, somebody has taken the intestine of a horse and literally laid it all out on the floor for you. They put the percentages here to kind of highlight the sizes so you can see the difference. Small intestine is about 30%, and again, you can see the hindgut is 60%. So from this picture, one thing I guess that's important to note, horses are designed to graze for about 18 hours a day with small amounts of food continually moving throughout the digestive system. So what does this mean for you as an owner? Basically means they're designed to eat lots of fiber and small frequent meals. So now that we've kind of had a little overview of the whole system, we're going to look at each of the parts in more detail. So the first area we come to is the mouth. Horses have incredibly tactile lips. As we all know, they're very good at sorting things that they want to eat, or better yet, as we know even better, those things that they don't want to eat. They're incredibly talented at sorting through a bucket of feed and leaving pellets or supplements or other things that they just want no part of in the bottom of the dish. But once they decide to actually eat something, their teeth will masticate the feedstuffs. When a horse's teeth meet together properly, it actually generates quite a bit of saliva. So that's why I argue to people it's important to make sure that your teeth are looked after properly. Diet can also have quite an impact on the health of a horse's teeth. Choking as a result of improper mastication, bolting, improper lubrication. These are all reasons, again, why you want to make sure that your horse's teeth are in the best shape that they can be. So in the mouth, We have three main salivary glands. You've got your parotid, the sublingual, and the mandibular. The largest is the parotid gland. Horses make a lot of saliva, approximately 35 to 40 liters a day. So when their teeth are meeting together properly, all of this, what I like to call juice, is generated to help move that food through the digestive system. So their saliva is approximately 99% water compared to us. They have virtually no digestive enzymes. We've got a lot of amylase in our spit, which will help digest or start with the breakdown of starch and things. Horses don't have that. pH is pretty basic, around 8.6 to 9.1. They do have a fair bit of calcium and chloride in their saliva, more like that you would find in, let's say, that of an omnivore or a carnivore. They have a lot less sodium and bicarbonate in their saliva than you would get in, say, a ruminant. So once they actually decide that they're going to swallow something, I like to call this the point of no return. It's going to enter into the esophagus, which in an adult 500 kilo horse, it's approximately 1.5 meters in length. Food will be propelled down by peristaltic contractions. And the reason I say it's the point of no return is because, unlike us, horses do not have the capacity to burp or regurgitate. So anything they have eaten or swallowed at this point in time, it has to pass through their entire GIT before we're going to see it again. So once it makes its way down the esophagus, we're going to come to the stomach. In the horse, it's generally divided into two regions. The upper portion is your non-glandular mucosa, whereas on the distal portion or the bottom, you have your glandular mucosa. It's divided into your fundic, pyloric, and cardiac regions. So where the food enters or in the upper portion, it's going to be fairly basic. And then a pH gradient will form and it becomes quite acidic as you reach the bottom portion of the stomach. The fundic mucosa is your site of HCl secretion. You'll also get some pepsin lipase going on. HCl secretion is stimulated by food intake, but it's important to remember that in the horse, they're always going to be secreting some hydrochloric acid into their stomach, even when it is empty. So all of these juices and enzymes will start the breakdown of protein, fat, starch, and sugar. It's been known for quite some time, actually, that horses have a pretty diverse and active gastric microbial population. And dependent on pH, they can partially utilize some of the starch that's ingested, but how much or if any still is yet to be determined at this point, or how much can cross the gastric lumen. There's still quite a lot they have to determine and find out about the gastrointestinal tract of a horse, it turns out. So stomach can be anywhere from 15 minutes to 24 hours to empty. So 15 minutes is what you'll see generally if you've consumed a large meal or possibly overexceeded the digestive capacity of the stomach. 24 hours, you tend to see that if a horse has been fasted for a long time, is where that usually occurs. So what does this all mean to you as an owner? So your glandular mucosa secretes mucus and bicarbonate for protection. Prostaglandins are a compound that play a major role in controlling this in the body and making sure that that nice mucous membrane is there for protection. This can be negatively affected by NSAIDs, or your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, things like bute. They reduce the production of prostaglandin. So if we're not making prostaglandin, your mucous membrane's not there, and potentially predisposing you to ulcers or other things. When your forage intake is withheld or decreased, your pH in that upper portion of the stomach, which tends to be a little bit more towards the basic, or it tends to be more basic in terms of pH. When you withhold the forage, that pH can actually drop to around 4.0 in just a matter of a couple of hours. So what What that means is you've now left your non-glandular mucosa at the top. You've left it vulnerable to all these acids and secretions, potentially leaving you the potential to develop ulcers. Now, they also argue, and again, there's a lot more research that has to be done here, when your pH is dropping, because of that gastric population of microbes you have going on, they're more active at a higher pH and, at a lower pH, and more fermentation is going to occur. So theoretically, you're getting more utilization of the feedstuffs while that's going on, but it's also not good for the upper portion of the stomach. So it's recommended that you don't want to feed more than 0.5% of your body weight in grain at one time. So what this means, for average 1,000-pound horse, that's about 5 pounds of grain in one sitting. If you go over this, you're potentially over exceeding the capacity of your digestive system, and things are going to move along before we really want them to. And that's not usually a good thing. So once we get out of the stomach, we're going to move into the small intestine. So the reason it makes up about 30% of your GIT, it's a very long tube, about 25 meters in length for a 500-kilo adult horse. A lot of enzyme secretions are formed here, come from the bile duct and the pancreas. You're going to get things like lipase, amylase, sucrase, lactase. There's 3 main regions that are labeled there for the small intestine. Major site of absorption, things like starches, your sugars, proteins, fats, they're all going to be digested and absorbed here. It can take as little as a half hour to about 4 hours for things to pass through the small intestine. Now, half hour is really quick. On average, it's usually a few hours for things to pass through. Another actually fun fact or important thing to remember is that horses do not have a gallbladder. So bile is continually released into the system, which helps with the emulsification of fats so they can be better digested. So as I mentioned, this is your major site of absorption.
Now, I'm going to ask you just to back up one slide.
Okay.
And I want you to look at this anatomical section on your slide. Dun, dun, dun. And there's a reason why I'm bringing it to the attention. How am I supposed to go backwards on a PC when I'm a Mac?
I'm going to say the back
there.
arrow.
Okay. There. So if you look at the anatomy right here, what happens right there?
Big bend.
A big bend. What would that lead a horse to be problematic? What do you guys think? It's not the important big bend. It's still a big bend.
The important one's labeled on a later slide.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. Thank you. Then you're good. I will shut up.
So, as I mentioned, your small intestine, major site of absorption, your intestinal wall covered in villi or little finger-like projections. This is where all your absorption is occurring. So pepsins breaking down your protein into your amino acids. Lipase is what's helping to emulsify and break down the fats. And then we've got carbohydrates, your starches and sugars are all broken down and absorbed. Water and fat soluble vitamins. So vitamin C, biotin, and your fat solubles like A, D, E, and K, they're also absorbed here. You also see absorption of minerals like calcium, inorganic phosphorus. One thing that's very important to remember, the reason or horses are more susceptible to certain toxins, and the reason that that happens is because they're reaching the small intestine or your major site of absorption and being absorbed directly into the body or the bloodstream before they have a chance to be exposed or unaltered. So in a ruminant, because they have that 4-chambered stomach where all the bacterial fermentation occurs, any molds or toxins that are ingested, they're being degraded and broken down by the bacteria and other microbes that are in there. And hopefully they're not going to have as much of a harmful effect later on. Whereas in the horse, they go through that key site of absorption before they ever meet any bacteria or any breakdown. So it's one of the reasons they tend to be a little bit more susceptible to things. So once we make it out of the acidic environment or our foregut, we're moving into the hindgut. This is where we're getting your cecum, your large and small colons. So the cecum is a blind sac. Your entrance and exit point are at the same location. Just thinking about that, if we think about a lot of things trying to move in or out of the same point, that can be potentially problematic for the horse. Your large colon, on the other hand, is a series of large sacs or pouches. Your normal pH in your cecum and colon is going to fluctuate around 7, so a nice basic environment. Normal fermentation requires regular delivery into and out of the system with very little environmental changes occurring. So this means you want little fluctuations in pH and rapid absorption of any byproducts that are produced from the reactions going on. So your microbes that are found back here, they work together to convert plant-based fiber into volatile fatty acids, or your VFAs. Lactate, on the other hand, is produced from the fermentation of soluble fiber. So high lactate production going on in your hindgut produces gas. This also causes the pH to drop. So your concentration and activity of these good bugs or microbes that are in there doing all this nice helpful stuff is going to drop as we slowly kill them off. Your microbial population that you'll find in this part of your GIT can take approximately 2 to 3 weeks to adjust to a feed change. So this is why you'll hear us lovely nutritional people saying that you should change the diet over time. That would be one of the reasons why, or they'll be having quite the party back there. So in your hindgut, you're going to get absorption of volatile fatty acids. You'll also see absorption of sodium and chloride. That comes with the movement of the VFAs across the lumen. The main VFA they're going to make use of is acetate. You'll also get propionate and butyrate in there. One thing to note about horses, they can't make use of urea, unlike their ruminant counterparts. So we don't want to be putting that into the feed. They will produce B vitamins as well as vitamin K in their colon. Now, see those lovely dots there on the diagram that look a little bigger than the other ones? Those are your most likely points where a impaction can occur. I know that much. I'm not sure where can your twist occur most likely? I'll ask the vet.
Well, your twist, back up a slide, it's the easier place to show it.
Told you.
One slide,
I just remember
that's
them. That's
simple.
what those dots were on that picture.
So on that slide, you can nicely see that the pelvic flexure is at the back, and that is the most likely place for an impaction to occur because it has to make basically a 180-degree turn there rather tightly. And so that is one of the few places in the gut that we can nicely palpate when we recto a horse. So, because you have to remember when we as vets stick our hands in
I always wondered what you were
we can
feeling
only
up
reach
there.
out this far in. So that gets you to, it doesn't get you as far as B on that map. Gets you maybe to I in the transverse colon. The things that are most likely to twist, a left dorsal displacement of the colon is probably the most common twist. So that takes all of that stuff that's on the left side of the screen and either just turns it on itself or actually raises it up and kind of turns it over as it's going. The right colon can tors, but more rarely than the left. The cecum can tors as well on its own because it's in there as a balloon. It comes to a dead end. So anything that goes into the cecum has to come back out the main hole, as I was saying. So it can.
It's like trying to
twist on
get through
itself.
the airport on a busy day. It's potentially not going to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Rex Crawford.
So apparently I should have put that other picture on this one. So if we've got excessive fermentation going on, we can also get nice bubbles of gas forming in those pouches as things are moving along. And
That picture isn't coming up as nice on that screen either, is it?
I wondered if that was my angle, or
No.
if that was the.
Yeah.
It's
Things are
very
better.
clear on here.
Yeah.
And
And if you can turn it around to see.
we all know excessive gas does not make the horse comfortable. So once we've made it all the way through, hopefully this is what we're going to see. So your small colon is what's going to reclaim all of the water or moisture for the body. And it will make, I guess, fecal balls of manure. So it can take approximately 36 to 70 hours from mouth to manure. So usually if you've got an issue going on, it's not what you just fed your horse. And in the end, what does that all mean? Basically, your horse's digestive system is a complex arrangement of organs that's designed for a free grazing animal. So due to the constraints we've placed on them, both in terms of environment and feed, serious problems can occur. Things like colic, ulcers, other issues. So as a horse owner, if you understand the basics of how their digestive system works, you can properly manage your horse's feeding to get the most out of their nutrition with hopefully the least number of complications. And yeah, this will take us into our next speaker, which I think is going to be Dr. Rex Crawford, and take us into worming, I believe. Is he next?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next.
Yes. Now, one thing though, before we go on to the next one, but I'm going to ask Rex just to show us on this diagram what he was saying, because I think this is a better diagram for
this
you,
is a nice picture. for
right?
this. So,
It's still
so
nice
first
now.
question was, what can we feel? And we can feel to maybe there. So that's that pelvic flexure there. So we can nicely feel that. But if something's going on way up here, we can't feel it very well. Kidney will be about there. Should be kidney. So I can palpate upwards to kidney, because sometimes horses also get a thing called nephrosplenic entrapment. And that's where this part of the gut, the left dorsal colon, gets up there, and the spleen sticks above the ligament that goes between the kidney and the spleen, nephro and splenic, and it makes a little shelf up there. And so that chunk of gut can actually get popped up over top of that and get stuck there. So sometimes we can sometimes diagnose that on rectal palpation. And so when things twist, often it's these things either just twisting around themselves, so just doing one of those, like a kinked water hose, or all of this can float upwards and do funny things as it floats upwards. Often when we get gas, probably more often on the right-hand side, in cecum and right dorsal colon is where we get more often a lot of gas production if we get gassiness.
Everyone's good? Any questions?
Why is there all that free floating space that it has the capacity to just float up like that?
Design flaw. Design flaw. They're amazing creatures for what they can do, but that's the horse's biggest challenge.
I know that's why they're called hay burners, because they're not nearly as good at eating hay as a cow.
Cows do some funny things too.